Neil.
Amazing. All right, Jeff Locke, thank you very, very much. All right, Mattie Duppler is here. We've got Charles Payne here. Larry Schubert is here as well. SSG Alternative CME trader as well. Charles Payne, what is going on here? We knew the trade thing was getting antsy, but it seemed like the bottom fell out.
It did, but because I think this had a little bit of a different twist. This wasn't really trade. This was investment. This is about, the whole thing, by the way, is centered on Made in China 2025. The administration, which I wish they would articulate what they're trying to do, because I understand, and I think a lot of people do, and it's the idea of curbing this ambition, the stated ambition by China to sort of be the world's tech leader in a short period of time. And one way to get there, perhaps the only way they can get there with their own timeline, is to continue to steal our intellectual property. So the idea is to restrict investments from companies where China has a 25% or more ownership. And again, this was just speculation. It was in a few media outlets. The White House trying to take it back a little bit. It's something obviously that they've toyed around with. Peter Navarro has talked about this kind of thing for maybe 2 decades. So this is not necessarily news per se, but it is a different twist to your point. It's not the trade stuff anymore as much as it is, hey, we want to take direct aim at your ambitions to usurp America's perch as the world's tech leader.
Well, Larry, what worried a lot in the markets is that all of a sudden then we were putting a wall up on Chinese investment in general in technology, period. That's how it was interpreted. And then later on, the Treasury Secretary Mnuchin came out to say, no, it was not singling out China, as if to say there are other players here, as if that eased the angst. I mean, it actually compounded it. But what do you make of that?
Well, what I make of it is that 2 things. The whole thing lacks clarity. Like, it didn't matter. Like, this whole China tweets and tirades, it didn't matter because it lacked clarity. It seemed like the White House was utterly unprepared to create any kind of proposal that could go into law. Immigration policy is a good proof of that. Also, it lacks credibility because we all know, I mean, this hurts us more than it hurts them. The fact that it's going to kill Apple or Nike really, really hurt them manufacturing their goods there that are sent to us. So it doesn't make any sense. People dismissed it. And I really think people are definitely blaming the China trade today. The bigger problem, though, it's really tech. We saw that breaking down last week. Leadership has been very thin in the stock market. Without 5 or 6 super cap techs in the S&P 500, we'd be down 4% instead of up 1.5%. But it started to crack. The Supreme Court came out last week with ruling on sales tax, et cetera. That chasm between growth and value has been very, very wide. The market is vulnerable. The ball will always find you when you're out of position, and that's really what happened today.
Man, people are a little anxious on that investment angle here, and maybe finding an excuse for technology would run up far and fast to sell off some of the. But Mattie, it is sort of this impression that not everyone in the administration seems to be on the same page. I'm getting different vibes from the Treasury Secretary, different vibes from their trade representatives, different vibes from the president. And I think that is the kind of thing that scares markets.
Oh, absolutely. You finally have consensus on this panel, Neil, and that's what the heck is the administration intending to do with these trade efforts? Charles and I don't always agree on this issue, but right now we're both wondering what is the objective here? And that's what the administration needs to clarify. It needs to make clear what it intends to do with all of these efforts towards China. Now, if the objective here is to exact the most amount of pain and pressure on China possible, they need to make sure that they're not injecting pain on American businesses. And that's the concern, especially when you look at really artificially diminishing the amount of capital that can come into this country. I worry about the impact on businesses. And that's not even getting to what tariffs are doing to American businesses, where we've already seen some of those announcements this week. Or even
the threat of them. But Charles, the other thing you mentioned, and this is what you can help me out here, it has always been that the Chinese are in bad shape here. They're 2-year-plus lows in their market. They have a lot more to lose than we do. But they also have their pride, and they're not giving any ground here. So how is this resolved?
And this is where I disagree with Larry. I don't think, I think a lot of people are raising the white flag so quickly that China is going to beat us at this. They're not. If it has to go the whole way,
Mattie the whole way could be years.
Yeah, sure. Mattie makes the right point. It's sort of like when my pops used to take me out in the back and say, it's going to hurt me as much as it hurts you. No, it won't. Now, that being said, let's look at what China did today, this morning. Their central bank freed up banks over there to the tune of $100 billion. right? This is the sort
need to stimulate.
to do things on debt. Last week it was $30 billion. A week before that it was $30 billion. Their foreign reserve currencies have dropped $1 trillion. Their debt to GDP ratio is on its way to 300%. We aren't going to lose this. China knows we're going to lose this. Nobody wants to lose. It's a matter of how, to your point, do you save face and resolve it?
I think that's where we are. You know, Larry, the Chinese were today indicating, we don't just turn a cheek on this, and we come back and we're going to fight back. Now, to be clear, no response to the tariffs yet with tariffs of their own. In other words, to increase the amount to match the United States, when we promised we would put $200 billion on top of that. Some read into that a sign that the Chinese are trying to find a middle ground here where they can talk tough, but they don't have to respond in kind and invite a war. What do you see?
Yeah, well, I see that they've already done that, just what we said. I mean, the required reserve ratio dropped 50 basis points yesterday, adding all that liquidity into the market. What did that do? That dropped RMB by 1.5% in 5 days, 3.5% over the last month. So they're already ready. That's going to negate any kind of trade tariff that we're going to impose. And I think they know at the end of the day that, there's a so lack of clarity coming out of the White House that they're just preparing for it. Also realizing that they've had a real soft patch of data coming in. So perhaps Trump is trying to hit them while they're weak.
All right, guys, I apologize, jumping on. We got a lot of breaking news here. I do want to bring in my next guest, the former High